How you guys doing?
Good, man. What's going on?
Nada, man. Nada. Just got done putting some kids through a workout, but that's about it. So nothing too crazy.
Okay, cool, man. You ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. So first thing I was going to ask you was, so you were born and raised in Iowa,
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir. Small little town called Tama. No one's
okay,
really ever really heard of it. So yeah, it's real tiny.
and you wrestled for the University of Iowa, and you were a two-time All-American, finished fourth at the NCAA championships.
Yep. And fifth. Yep.
Okay, cool. Dorian, you want to ask anything?
Yeah. After college, you graduated. Uh, where'd you go from there? I obviously know you have like an extensive MMA background, so
Yeah. So how it went down was went straight into coaching. I was close to heading to, I mean, we all remember MFS, Military Fighting Systems. I was close to going there. The only thing was, I was gonna have to work at like a nightclub, a strip club, let's put it that way. I didn't feel like that was going to be the best environment for a 22-year-old kid like myself. So I actually took the volunteer assistant at University of Indiana, and I made sure right away on my interview, like, hey, I want to fight this and that, and they were all about it. So it worked out. It was really good. I started fighting there. Had my first professional fight when I was there. Moved on to the University of Buffalo. Had two or three fights while I was there, and then I resigned and went on the Ultimate Fighter season 7. That didn't work out, but you know what it did? It forced me to have to make that decision. It was this going to be a full-time thing for me? So that's what I did. I packed up all my stuff, moved to State College, Pennsylvania, started training with a guy by the name of Phil Davis, and got this manager who actually it was a great deal. Paid us a salary to train full time, and then just took 30% of our fight purses. So that lasted for a year, and that's kind of how it started.
And you made your Strikeforce debut in 2009. I think that was on the Tim Kennedy and Cummings card. Is that right?
Yep, yep, yes,
And
sir.
you faced Levi Avera? Did I say that correct? Correct.
Yeah, Levi Vera, yeah, the Marine.
Okay. And you won that via unanimous decision?
Yeah, it wasn't the best performance I had. I, I did what I did best, and that was wrestle. And I beat him up. It was a 30-27 all the way through. But yeah, I can tell you the Oklahoma crowd wasn't pleased with him being from Tulsa. But I just did what I had to do to win. So
Yeah.
I
yeah.
guess it wasn't the most exciting, but it was a clear cut like win, and I was never in danger. So
Gotcha. And
Gotcha.
shortly after that, I guess 2010, you faced Luke Rockhold, also in Strikeforce.
yeah, I guess that was my payback for having a boring fight. But yeah, it was a weird deal with Strikeforce. That's when Scott Coker was head of it, and yeah, it was one of those things where you either fight Luke Rockhold on, I think it was 4 weeks notice up a weight class, or you can sit for another 6 to 8 months and maybe you'll get a fight. And I mean, any person with those odds stacked against them, you're going to take the fight. So obviously, I didn't even stick to a game plan. I went out gunslinging with him, and the guy who's 6'3", I think he's 6'3", man, he was touching me before I could even reach him, man. So
Was that
yeah.
was that
What's up?
welterweight or
No, that was middleweight. So yeah, it was one of those things where you either take the fight or you're benched. You're going to be on the bench for a while. So yeah, it wasn't my best performance. And then I shortly after that, I got my letter right before Christmas saying you're done. So yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't too happy with it.
Yeah. And then let me ask you this. So then after that, 2011, how did you get into the UFC? Where did that come about?
So yeah, man, I had to grind. I was taking any sort of fights I could take. I moved to Minnesota after state college. Sean Sherk came out and did a clinic, former UFC lightweight champ back in the day with Kenny Florin. Man, I just gravitated towards the guy. He was like an idol to me. So when he came out and did that clinic, I got to train with him a little bit, and I went out there for, what was it, 6 weeks before I fought Mike Pierce the first time, and I believe he was getting ready for Frankie Edgar, and we trained together every single day, and it was amazing. So then I made the decision to move closer to home, which I'm from Iowa. Packed up all my stuff, moved all the way across the country again to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I was there for 3 or 4 years. And yeah, man, I was taking every single fight I could. I got my record built up to 18-2, and finally got my opportunity. I think it was UFC 133 against uh what was his name? Jiu-jitsu guy. He was gonna get cut if I beat him, but Rafael Natal, and then he goes on like a fight winning streak. But a lot of people don't know the story. The week before they fought in Pittsburgh, and I actually got the call to fight on 3 days' notice against a guy by the name of Charlie Brenneman. I don't ever tell any this story because it still pisses me off to this day. That was supposed to be my UFC debut. Well, he turned it down. We had trained together before, and it didn't go well for him. He knew it wasn't a good fight for him, and sure enough, and I kept my mouth shut at the time. He's on Twitter. It looks like I'm not going to get the fight. They can't find me a short notice opponent. What are you talking about? I agreed to it. I was getting ready for a fight, man. Or it might have been 2 weeks in between, something like that. Because then I fought the next week, and then I fought a week after. But anyways, like I was close to weight too, and it was welterweight. And if I'm being quite honest, he didn't want to get punished in front of his friends and family. He's from Hollidaysburg, which is an hour and a half down the road, and by pure luck, he fights Mike Story or Rick Story and ends up beating him though on that card. So yeah, I got Natal my first fight up a weight class, 185 on, was it a week notice, 2 weeks, something like that. Lost the decision. And then yeah, my next fight was, I want to say 6 months later, against Mike Pierce again, who I mentioned earlier, and lost a split decision on the UFC on Fox card when Dos Santos knocked out Kane. So, didn't have the best UFC experience, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So
before I forget to ask you this, what's the Muscle Shark up to nowadays? Do you still talk to him?
yeah, I do. Yeah, he's doing really well. He flips houses. He's a carpenter. He set himself up really well. He was smart about his money. I remember him telling me one day, he's like, yeah, man, my goal for every fight is to make enough money off sponsors that I can pay my gym dues, I can pay my mortgage for whatever so many months, and the fight money is just a bonus. So he was investing that, flipping homes at the time. So really smart dude. Love the guy. Still chat with him periodically, not as much as I like, but he's doing well, doing his thing up there in Minnesota.
Cool, man. Yeah, I tried to. What's that?
Okay. No. I just had a curious question about like the sponsorships. Like you hear a lot of fighters today in the UFC complaining about like the Monster Energy. Like you see like a weird tension between like
Hans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? How did the sponsorships work back in the day? Like, could you just kind of have whatever and they just kind of just drop you some money, or like?
Yeah, it was great back when heck, I got really good at getting my own. I felt it was more personable to talk to these companies, because I mean, think about it. Like, do they really want to talk to a manager who's soliciting money? Like, I'm literally, hey man, this is what it's gonna do. It's gonna help with my training expenses. I'm gonna pay my rent, so I'm not all stressed out having to worry about the fight money, this and that. And I put out the length on the shorts and where it'd be and how much it is. I got really good at it. And going back to Sean, he's the one that taught me to do that. Uh, he he literally would like pattern out the shorts, this and that. So I started doing it, and I had more success doing it. I mean, heck, I got Hayabusa on my own at one point. Uh, Dynamic Fastener was a big one, if you remember them. Tap Out wasn't me, but I got them. Full Tilt a few times. But yeah, back in the day, it was like the wild, wild west. And unfortunately, when I got into the UFC, that's back when they started charging the $50,000 if you were a clothing sponsor. So I had a decent sponsorship my first fight in the UFC, and then they didn't pay the 50 grand. So yeah, lo and behold, I see a few fights later before they, bowed out because they didn't want to pay. He was on Yushin Okami's shorts, which, yeah, fighting Anderson Silva in Brazil. So, but yeah, they ended up getting booted because they didn't pay the 50. But yeah, it was rough. But you could get like other companies. So I had like who did I all have? I had like I want to say a mortgage company at one point. As long as it wasn't a clothing sponsor, because back then it was. I feel like it was like if you had a clothing sponsor, you had to pay 50 grand. So it was a lot more lenient back in Sean's day. Like he was telling
Yeah.
me, like, dude, he was getting like 25, 30 grand off like fight shorts. You know what I mean? Just crazy. So
Did that dude used to really eat baby food? I remember, like, I used to watch his fight camp vlogs, and this was a while ago on YouTube. The dude was like
so
eating
he
baby food and stuff.
so he turned me on to that too. Like I said, I emulated that dude. He was jacked. He was a good wrestler. He was tough. So yeah, like so after weigh-ins, it's like the best nutrients you can take in because it goes instantly into your bloodstream. So I took him up on that and I started doing it my whole fight career. Man, I used to do the sweet potatoes. It was terrible, but I used to make myself suck it down because it's the best. It literally is the best nutrients you can get. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's 100% true. Yeah, the baby food thing.
That's crazy. I'm pretty sure there was this is like probably back in middle school. It shows my age. But I saw that video and I was like, I'm gonna have to go try that. You know what I mean? Look like Sean Shirt. And I was
Yeah.
like, no, I'm good.
Did you ever see those API videos? It was Athletic Performance Inc. And he's like doing the sprints on the treadmill, then he's doing the mobility thing with the hands, and then he's punching the bag. So that was next door to the gym we were at, and it will get you in shape for sure. It was intense, man. So I got on that kick with him too. But he was an animal, man. Like people don't understand how good he was and how disciplined. It was crazy. I'd look over, so he lived kind of a far, not kind of, he lived like 45 minutes from the gym. So during fight camp, he wasn't going back and forth, and he was doing two-a-days. I'd look over, in between our session, and he'd be just picking up like a piece of lettuce and eating the lettuce plain. I'm like, dude, you got like no flavor, bro. Like just eating like nuts. Or he was so strict, and man, like
Yeah.
it showed. And I remember one day I was joking with him, like, dude, like, do you ever like cheat? He's like, well, the other night I had a piece of cheese. I'm like, what? You had a piece of cheese? Like that was a cheat meal?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, a lot of people forget about him. Yeah, he was a champ at one point and everything. So
yeah.
that was the man back then. And then BJ Penn, of course, that was my favorite fighter in that era.
Yeah, he kind of put it too, Sean, but he was on another level at that point, man. No one was beating BJ. When BJ was on, BJ was on, and I was actually supposed to go to train with him before the Sean Shirk fight. And then yeah, man, I had the flight booked. I was heading out there because he needed a good wrestler. And then my episode of The Ultimate Fighter came out with the skin herpes on my neck, and they called my manager and said, don't bother. I'm like, really? Really? So that's how that went down. So I never did get to train with BJ, but eventually I trained with Sean. So that was cool.
That's cool, man. Doran, you got anything to add?
Yeah, what was your PFL experience? PFL is, I feel that they're with the possibly with this new Francis deal, and then maybe merging with Bellator, it's probably gonna expand. But what what was your PFL experience and kind of how
Yeah,
that worked different
yeah.
from like
Ray Cefa was a man. He's a he's a fighter's guy, man. Like he did the game. He knows the game. I actually, when I was with Bellator, because you don't want to talk bad about your former employee, right?
yeah
Because that never in a good light. But I knew after I knocked out Honeycutt, that was the last fight of my contract, and they were just like playing games with me, like lowballing me. They the fight, I think I was making 8,000 to show, 8,000 to win when I knocked out Chris. And Chris was getting 15 to show, 15 to win. And I'm like, I wasn't asking for anything astronomical. I mean, I was ranked in the top 10 at the time at the weight class. I go, just give me what Chris is getting, 15 and 15, and we'll call it a day. Well, no, we can't do that. Here's what we can do. We can do 10 and 10 and then a $5,000 knockout bonus. I'm like, so really, we're going to go down that road? So submission doesn't count? What if I TKO him? That doesn't count, you know? And so I secretly started talking to Ray through Twitter, actually, about like, hey, man, like, I'm not happy over here. You know, and Ray's like, why wouldn't they want you after, you know, that awesome? I'm just like, I don't know. They're kind of, you know, throwing me aside. And so we started getting a deal worked out. Well, then PFL, well, it was World Series of Fighting at the time.
Yeah.
They called Bellator and Bellator goes, yeah, we're not planning on signing him back. I'm like, dude, you just screwed up my whole like negotiating power, let alone they sat me on the bench for almost 9 months. And so thankfully, like, they didn't have to, but they gave me 10 and 10 to fight Yushin when I stepped in, and it was great. Like, my last 2 fights were nowhere near I needed to be. I had just literally come off back surgery. I broke my back in a real bad motorcycle accident. It was like a year and a half before that until I realized it was actually broken. So I got the surgery and tried to fight 7 months later, and that I was just off. The timing's off by that much. I could feel it, you know, but I'm not going to give up a chance at $1 million, you know. But all I can say is like Ray was nothing but, you know, professional with me, amazing. I really enjoyed the organization. I just wish I had performed better in my last 2 fights. So
Yeah.
Prior to you going over there, you fought at one in Moscow, didn't you?
yeah, M-1. So yeah, and funny you bring that up. Was I had just lost the Yushin by split decision in New York City at the Hulu Arena or whatever. I don't like to say Madison Square Garden. I mean, yes, it's attached to it, but it's not the Madison. You know what I mean? It's the boxing arena, is what I like to call it.
Yeah.
And they were looking for an opponent for Shlemenko, and they were offering a lot of money, like a lot, like 30. Well, it was 30,000 to show cash, and then it was 15,000 if you win. I'm like, holy shit, you know, without taxes, that's a lot of money, man. So I went to Ray and I was like, dude, like, I'm getting offered this fight. Can I take it? And he's like, yeah, just, you know, make sure you come back here and don't get hurt, essentially, and you'll still have a home with us. So he gave me his grace, or his blessing or whatever, and I went over there and I didn't win. It was an exciting fight. The fans they loved me. It was like the Rocky getting beat up, but you know, I stayed in there. I had my times during the fight, but you know, he was a better fighter that night, and they offered me a contract, which I wish I could have fought with both organizations because they pay cash, and we all like cash, right?
Yeah.
But no, so yeah, I fought over there, and it was an experience. Let's put it that way. I'm thinking, like, you know, we fought in the Olympic arena on a giant billboard in Moscow, and it's a different culture, man. No one smiles. It's the weirdest thing. Like, you can't tell if someone's happy, mad, or sad. They just kind of like, you know, frown at you. So it
Yeah.
was cool though. I got to see Moscow. I didn't do any of the tourist stuff. I was more focused on the fight. So it was a good experience.
Yeah, we had Jeff Monson on the podcast. He was one of our first guests. I mean, I know he lives over there, but he's like, yeah, I love fighting at M1. I know he fought Fedor and M1.
Yep.
So I was just curious about that. Dorian, you want to add on anything?
I see you got the Queens University wrestling in the back. You and old Coach Tate, man.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Y'all. And obviously you got the Sean Jiu-Jitsu Academy on. That's the
Yep.
home right there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got to represent, right?
Yeah. Hey. I actually was fixing to get some of the merch drop stuff. I've been meaning to get it. Go into what you got going on at Queens, man. Y'all. I mean, just from just from, you know, my visualization from being in the jiu-jitsu gym, like, man, y'all were two really good wrestlers, man. And like, you know, like what are you doing for the kids? And like kind of like how's the college coaching life going now, like with this new generation, and kind of what's going on with that?
Yeah, man, it's been probably going into my fifth season. We had our first All-American 2 years ago, which was huge success. Like I said, the program's only been around for, well, what is it going to be, season seven? So six technically with eligibility because we had to do a transition period. But now we moved to D1, and I'm not going to lie, it's been rough. I recruited 14 kids last year that were probably going to struggle at D2, and we threw them right in the fire. But they've adjusted well. It's hard for them to see that they're
Yeah,
getting better, but I can see it.
yeah,
And like it's been great. Like I've recruited like a pretty diverse class. I think we have 9 African Americans on the team, 4 or 5 Hispanics, and then there's other kids are white or whatever out of 26. But the cool part about coaching is like I've been able to like get some of these African American kids, like first generation
yeah,
kids, to college, man. It's like, and you can't put a price tag on that. It's a feel good thing, but I'm just happy that they're there instead of in their environment. And I won't say the kid's name, but we have one kid on the team, and all his brothers are in jail, and his dad literally just got. He doesn't know his dad. His dad just got out of jail, and it was an emotional thing where we had to sit down and talk with him, and because he doesn't know what to do. He's
yeah,
been taking care of himself his whole life, so just getting kids like that to our school and getting them out of that environment and giving them the opportunity to like succeed, is amazing. Or it's writing that reference letter for a kid. We had a kid that was going to be booted out of school for academics, and being able to write that letter, I believe, this kid he's going to turn it around. His first time out of his mom's house, single mother, and sure enough, he did. And he was a heck of a wrestler last year for the second part of the season because he was ineligible the first part. But it's very gratifying, man, and I couldn't think of a better job to do, and I
yeah,
absolutely love it. Like I get to you know coach and mentor these kids to be better human beings, and we all
yeah.
know this time in the world, man, it's rough, man. They got all these outside forces telling them this and that, and it's really fulfilling if that makes sense. But yeah, we're getting better. We're gonna keep getting better. It's just it's gonna be a challenge.
Yep, yep. And obviously, man, I remember the first time I rolled with you. Like my very, it might have been my first day. Uh, Paul was wearing like spandex shorts, no
Of
shirt.
course.
I was like, yo, I gotta grab this dude in his underwear. And bro, like when I got done, I remember I called Garrett and I was like, dude, who is that? And why is he so strong? He goes, well, I got UFC, bro. And I was like, nah. So I found a video of you like just decapitating a guy. It had to have been in PFL, man. You were just decapitating. I
Yeah.
showed my wife and I was like, babe, look who I rolled with today. It's my first day. And she was like, please be careful. Please be careful.
I will say though, Doran, man, like since that day I rolled with you, you have gotten like a ton better. And I mean that like, in all
Yeah,
honesty. Like, remember how like you got your weight over and I just like flipped you that first day,
yeah,
and you're
yeah.
like, how'd you do that? I'm like, dude, you got to drop your weight. Well, I can't. Like your base is getting pretty damn solid where I actually have to use technical jujitsu now. And I'm like, all right, he's figuring it out, man.
I'm gonna tell you
So,
what, man. The Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu Academy, in my opinion, um, at all classes, man, like coming in as like someone who knows who can tell you anything about a fight or fighter or grappling moves. I watch grappling tournaments and stuff, and getting into it and kind of like adapting it into my life, man. Like I had people call me and they ask me questions about jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, look, man, like that place is a shark tank. Like it's gonna test your ego every single day. I mean, and you got to leave it at the door. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And I think my first sub, like the first sub I got where I did it correctly, there was no mishaps. It was a Kimura from Side Control. And then I got done, and I remember I made some phone calls to Mike and stuff, and I was like, that was super easy. I didn't have to think about it. And just like the transition of like jiu-jitsu, man, it's just such a beautiful thing, honestly, man. Like I don't know if I could do another like me now, if I go back and tell the 16-year-old me is like, hey, drop the football pads, go wrestle and join the
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Because
Yep.
I played football throughout my life, and still, just in 8 months, the camaraderie and the friendship I have in the jiu-jitsu gym is way more than what it is on a football field.
Yeah. You said it best. You don't know what you're getting into. It's like going to I've been to some of those MMA gyms where they're like, well, MFS, Bradley over here, anyone who knocks him out. I'm like, what? Like, dude, like, I don't even know what I'm doing, dude. Like, Tim Sylvia was trying to like spar me that day, and I'm like, Tim, like, you're gonna kill me. Like, no, I'm not. You're 200. Yeah, he was probably 300 pounds then, but no. Like you said, Charlotte's yeah, Charlotte BJJ is great because you know what? Same thing. I've been to a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms, and they're after you. They're out there to like prove a point where there's really no egos at Charlotte BJJ, and if there is, you're out. So we take care of each other, and like I said, we rolled. I didn't try to break your arm and
Yeah, no.
anything, but like some of those gyms, man, they'll put it to you, and see if you come back. But yeah, it's been great. And it's like the saying goes, a black belt is just what, a white belt that didn't quit or something. So,
That is true.
you know.
I think old Gillen here has had some bad gym experiences in the past.
We'll talk about that off the podcast, y'all. We don't want to call nobody out. But who else? So who else goes to the Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu Academy? Any other fighters or previous fighters?
Well, we got Brian Battle right now who's killing it, probably the nicest guy ever. There's that former UFC guy, he's a little bit older, lighter weight guy.
Trying to remember who you're talking about.
He comes in here and there.
Is that the guy from Gastonia, Dorian, that you were telling me about?
No, I think he's a coach. There's a lot of amateur fighters there's a lot of guys that are on the amateur scene at the academy. But the Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu Academy, in my opinion, like it seems as if everyone from the surrounding gyms go there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's where like Saturdays and Sundays, man. Like that's when you're gonna. I mean, you might walk around on a Saturday and see 40 people. Honestly,
Right.
Gotcha. Now, Paul, let me ask you this: I'm right outside of Orlando. That's where I moved to. Do you know of any gyms around here that I should check out?
Is what's his name still down there? Killer B. What the heck is his name? Maybe you can help me, Dorian. The tall dude that fought in the UFC for the longest time. He's good. He was good. He was in Bellator for a lot. He he always made it to the finals, but he couldn't get past Lima. Is he still in the I know that's where he started.
The British dude,
No, tall. He's tall. What's his name? He was good. Why am I drawing a blank? He came out to San Diego and trained for a minute. His name's Killer B on the Instagram. I'll have to look at. I hate looking stuff up while I'm talking, but
you're good.
If he's still there, that's definitely, that guy's humble as can be. What the heck was his name? Oh, Ben Saunders.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah. He was a welterweight.
Yep. Huge welterweight.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
So
big dude, man.
But Orlando wise, honestly, I'm not good with Orlando. I could tell you like there's, what is it? MMA Masters down there way in Miami and stuff, but Orlando is just not wasn't my area, man. I know Mike Perry's floating around somewhere down there, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to spar with that guy anyways.
I love. I think it's beautiful to see someone who showed up to fight every single fight finally get his payday. You know what I mean? Like he's the face of bare knuckle fighting now.
Yeah, he is. I mean, that was pretty nasty beatdown he put on Rockhold, did he not?
Yeah, man. That's crazy.
That's for sure. That's Mike Perry's sport right there. So
Yep.
So let me ask you that, Paul. Would you ever get into any bare knuckle stuff?
Oh man, I got offered. They didn't tell me the opponent, but I got offered when I first took the coaching job here, and I just said no because they're not gonna pay me because I'm gonna ask for like something like 20 and 20, and I ain't gonna get that the first fight, and it's not one of those things where I'm gonna try to make it a career along with my coaching. And personally, like I don't think my job would allow it. And I like what I do, and it's this is a long-term thing for me. So I kind of don't want to, and that's exactly what happened in Buffalo. Was I took that job thinking, oh well, Koshek was here like one coach before me. He went on the Ultimate Fighter. I'm sure this coach has to be okay with fighting. I got up there, and mind you, I had taken a pro fight in Des Moines, Iowa. Was it 2 nights before? And then had them fly me from Des Moines to Buffalo. And I remember I had a cut over my eye, and I super glued it together. And head coach there just thought, well, I told him, I was like, oh, kid, I told a white lie. I said, kid kicked me in the face when I was wrestling him. Well, no, it was a right hand during the fight. But the coach was just like, oh, that's so awesome, and this and that. Well, I got the job, and then apparently, so I got a fight offer. Back in the day when Johnny Hendricks wasn't huge yet, we all fought in like Tulsa when there was like this team takedown. It was a bunch of good fighters. It was pretty much like this promotion that they all fought on. But I remember asking the head coach, "Hey, can I take this fight? It's like 2,500." If I knew you had fought, my kid found a video of you on YouTube, and had I known, like I would have never hired you. I'm like, oh no, like this turned out terrible. So I ended up, he's like, go ahead and take it. Just make sure you win and come back. And so I went and won that fight. And he kept saying to me, he's like, man, the Ultimate Fighter is going to end up calling. It's going to end up, I'm like, no, it's not. Well, we happen to be in Vegas out for the Vegas Invitational of all times. Guess who calls? The Ultimate Fighter. And they want me to fly out there on Monday to start interviewing. And I'm like, well, just so happens I'm already here. And man, I sat that coach down the next morning, and I'm like, that was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had to have. And just say, hey, I want to stay out here and at least interview. And he's like, I knew this was going to happen, but he's like, I'll cover for you this week, and then you got to come back. And I came back, and they told me they were going to tell me before the new year if I was on the show. Well, I didn't hear from them, so I'm like, well, I didn't make the show. So, all right, whatever. It's like a happy medium because, like, I had a great job. I was making like $50,000 a year at 23 or 24, and living in Buffalo. And well, sure enough, during the Northern Illinois duel, I get a call on my cell phone. It's a Vegas number. I can't answer it, but they leave a message, and you're on the show. So another tough conversation, and rightfully so. He had me resign, which the show didn't work out. But you know what? It set me on that course to, do I want to do this as like a real career, and therefore fighting will be the career, and I'm going to have to make ends meet on the side. So that's how that went down.
And bare knuckle boxing's having, I mean, they obviously have issues getting sanctioned. Like there's like a limited number of states, I think, that they're allowed to fight in. Like I know they do it in South Carolina a lot, Florida.
Yep. North
But
Dakota.
yeah. But
Wyoming.
it's just such a different sport. And then like listening to Mike Perry explain like how you can't hold your hands a certain way. like there's a certain way you have to punch, but now most definitely I was thinking about the other day, man. I was like, is old Paul Bradley ever going to step into a bare knuckle fight?
Nah, man, I'm good. Had I been a bit younger and let's say I was outside of the UFC, which I was for, when I got cut, well, for the first 3 years, I wasn't in the UFC, and then I got cut by the UFC, and I did the independent circuit for like a year and a half, 2 years. Back then, dude, I would have taken a fight, of course. Like,
Yeah.
if they were offering more money than, let's say rinky dink promotion over here where I got to sell tickets and try to get all these sponsors, this and that. Heck yeah, I would have combined them both. But
Yeah.
I just turned 40, man. I'm already missing all my teeth, so it's like I gotta hang on to what I got, man.
Oh man, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
But yeah, I think who they were gonna match me up against, if I'm being quite honest, which this is only, hypothetically speaking, I think they were gonna match me up with Josh Neer because we fought in Bellator, and I mean I dominated the fight. I mean I hit him with a big right hand, but for the most part, like it was one of the easiest fights I ever had. I remember wrestling this guy in high school, and Josh, that is, and him being one of my toughest matches at this freestyle tournament. And I'm like, where'd this guy come from? Like, I don't even know who he is. Well, lo and behold, he ends up being Josh Neer, going to a split decision with Nate Diaz. But when we fought, like, I just grabbed him and like threw him down. It was super weird. So I almost feel like that because he had just had a fight. So I feel like that was who they wanted to offer me, which whatever, man. It's all good. I'll take my win and run.
Well, cool. Well, Paul, you got anything else you want to add before we get off here?
Nothing much, man. Thank you for having me on, and blessed to be here in the Queen City, coaching at Queen's University and doing what I love, and helping these young men get their degrees and go into something bigger than you know than what I ever done. So it's been really a humbling experience. Like I said, just like it's amazing, man. I can't really put into words like how satisfying it is. And yeah, it's a paycheck, but it's more than that. It's helping these kids, and
Yeah.
I live vicariously through them, through their winning. Now it's like I get the best of both worlds. I don't get punched in the face or get my knee snapped wrestling. I go through them, and I win through them. So it's been quite a journey and a blessing.
Cool, man. That's awesome. Well, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on. And my co-host, he had to work tonight, so he
I
wasn't
see
able to make
that.
it. So I had
Oh,
Hey Paul,
my
for
boy,
you, man.
yeah, my boy
Since
Dorian
you,
filled in.
since
yeah.
you subbed me so much, man, I started noticing that bald people in the gym are really good at jiu-jitsu, man. So hair off, bro.
Yeah, man. I used to have more hair, man. That's the other thing. I was hoping my roommate wouldn't have been. Actually, you know what? He can. I'll show you. This is kind of cool. He can. Oh, he's got the lights on too. So we got the. Oh man, I gotta. How do you flip your thing off? My background. I was trying to figure that out
Hold
earlier.
on, let me see. Go down to your that left corner and click
Okay.
that little arrow where it's just like the video.
Okay. Hold on. Oh, by video. Where is it? Left.
Is it
Okay.
left corner?
Yeah.
Up
Yeah. Yeah.
top? Okay.
Okay. Cool. Choose my virtual background. None. Oh yeah, this is cool. So yeah, this is kind of cool. Got that bad boy up.
Oh yeah, man. Paul Daly.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, and then we gotta of course put this one up.
Oh
Josh, Josh Neer one. But you see that? That's a full set of hair right there, man. What the hell happened? Oh yeah, and this one's kind of cool too. So this is actually a lady who had brain cancer painted that. So I donated my UFC fight shorts to her, and she painted that for me, which was pretty awesome, man. So that's like one of my prized possessions, man. And it's all about
Pretty
who you
cool,
meet,
man.
I guess, in this game. So
That's badass, man.
um,
But
so
But anyways, yeah. Well, Dorian, do you want to add anything?
Man, I'll see you at the gym in 2 weeks, man. I gotta cover a different city, so
All
I'll be
right,
back.
brother.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Paul.
All right. Thanks for having me on, guys. We'll talk to
All
you later.
No
right,
problem.
Bye.
man.
We'll see you.
See you, bro.